Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kieran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there.
How many jam nights have we played Wishing Well at over the years? My God,
we used to play it in Roadrunner, didn't we? And it was.
Did we?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of us did.
God knows what I was doing.
Greetings, welcome back to the Guitar Smarts podcast. If you are an everyday gigging guitarist, this is the podcast for you. Firstly, this week we are celebrating having reached 20,000 total downloads for our humble little podcast. That's 20,000 individual listens across the 62 episodes of Guitar Smarts. It's a huge milestone for us and we're very grateful. Anyway, this week, Kieran and myself are talking about what we think are the best ever guitar riffs in classic rock and roll. Everyone loves a great guitar riff, and we aren't short of choices, so you might find some surprises in this conversation, but fear not. If you head to our LinkTree in the description of this podcast, you can find a link that will take you directly to a Spotify playlist of all the songs mentioned in this podcast. Housekeeping. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast app. Why? Because you'll get alerts when a new podcast is released, and that means you won't miss another show. If you've already liked and subscribed and listened to us regularly, then use the LinkTree in the description of this show to leave us a rating or a review. This is the best way to support us and it helps us to grow. Use those links to get to our social media pages, links to our Buy Me a Coffee page if you do feel generous, and links to some of our Spotify playlists other than the new one that you'll hear about today. Come and see us on the social media pages, especially on the Guitar Geek Hangout page where you can interact with Kieran and myself. That's about enough from me. Let's get to it. Let's make a start. How are you doing, buddy? You well?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. The week has flown by. Autumn has definitely hit in the UK. It feels rainy and grey, but not my spirits. I'm in a good mood. I don't have any gigs this weekend, sadly. But I've got lots of parties because it's my youngest son's 7th birthday today, which is nice. And it is friend of the show, Mr. Damien Lodrick's birthday this weekend as well. So it's a weekend of parties.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Demo. I guess when you hear this demo, your birthday would have been last week.
That's right.
You've just recovered. So.
Are you still alive?
Yeah, exactly.
How hard did we party? Who knows?
A lot can happen in a week.
I don't know now, but by the time he listens to this when it comes out, then we will know how hard we partied. So it's a weird kind of Back to the Future thing going on there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's it. Would the party happen without us having this conversation now?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Some kind of paradox going on.
Oh, that's melted my head. That's done me. That's
melted
done me
my
already.
Head.
How are you, mate? How's things with you?
I'm good. Yeah? I'm good. Busy with work, but no gigs in the diary. So when I'm sitting down to play guitar, at least it's just kind of I'm trying to work on things now, getting back into a bit of a practice routine, which is great because I've been dying to do that. And, I think that's why I got into the rut. That I was in kind of in the middle of the summer was because every time I was playing guitar, I felt like I was just learning songs for gigs, and then I just kind of got into this pattern of not really enjoying playing guitar momentarily.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? And now I can sit down and kind of go, oh, great, I'm going to work on this and that. I'm going to try and write something or just practice something or try and learn a lick that I've never learned before. It kind of feels like I'm being more, progressing more in areas rather than having to play guitar when I don't want to play because I have to learn something.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. I'm doing.
You seem happier. You're always happier when you're in that groove and you get the balance. But it's like I'm the same. It's like a seesaw, right? There needs to be the other bit of it as well, because then when we spend too much time practicing and playing all of this, then we're like, man, I need to get out there and gig and try some of this stuff live. And I want to get it all like to see what it sounds like live. And I'm missing that. And then when we get into a routine of just doing gigs at the weekends and we get tired and we can't be bothered to play guitar during the week and practice. So then you just feel like you're just playing Mr. Brightside on repeat and that's all your guitar playing is made of. And you're just like, is this all I am now? So yeah, it's the seesaw effect, isn't it? But yeah, good to hear that you've thrown yourself back into the other side and you're...
Exactly, yeah. I really want to get to a jam. And I always say this every week. I really want to get to a jam night. It's hard at the moment with work and stuff. And
I keep forgetting.
I keep thinking, it's Thursday. Crikey.
Yeah, I was texting the guys last night about something, in fact, about the topic of today's podcast, and they were dutifully replying, credit to the wonderful hive mind that we have, and they were coming back with all the answers that I needed. And then they went, right, we need to play the first song of the jam. We're just about to start. And I was like, I forgot the jam. I was like, what am I, every night they're there ready to go and they're just about to play. And I'm literally sitting 2 minutes down the road, having forgotten about it.
We need to get a date in the diary for the jam.
We say this every week. We've been busy. We've been gigging. We've been mowing lawns. I've been cleaning cars. Doing some work.
We say that every week too.
Raising families. I know, it's like the Groundhog Day podcast. Just for listeners out there, this is episode number 63, I think, in case you're wondering. Like, is this the same as every podcast? No, it's going to be different, folks. It's going to be different.
Oh dear. So nothing new for you? No new guitars? I'm just checking the wall. No new guitars? No,
they've been moved around a little bit. Ones have been played. I've been playing a lot of classical. Well, I've been playing a lot of nylon strung guitar this week. So like you, I've gone back and started playing stuff. And do you remember we mentioned, I think on the greatest guitar intros episode we did a while back, there was one song which was Anastasia by Slash's kind of band, the latest band that he's got out. The song's a few years old now, but I've been meaning to learn the intro for that for a while. It's kind of like this classical-esque finger style piece done on a nylon string. I sat down and I'd learnt it a bit previously, but then as my brain gets older, literally I hadn't played it for a few months, so it's simply erased itself from my memory, which is really annoying. So I had to relearn it, but it came back really quickly. So I've been playing that, and then while I was in the groove of doing that, I thought, how much else can I remember of all of the kind of fingerstyle classical guitar-based stuff that I used to do? So I just went down a bit of a rabbit hole with that. So yeah,
fantastic.
I've been enjoying that this week and rekindling my love of former songs that I used to know, like seeing an old friend again for a long time, but they're getting really annoyed because can't remember. All
Interesting though, because I bet you surprised yourself, didn't you? I bet you surprised yourself with what you did know.
Do you know what and this is testament to something we've discussed on the podcast before, you and I definitely, which is around this mythical beast called finger memory, right, or muscle memory, and it's genuinely a thing, man. Like when if I'm trying to recall a piece that I haven't played in a long time and I'm concentrating too hard on trying to remember it and get it back up to the speed that I used to play it and all of that, I can find myself getting very frustrated really quickly because these are things that literally used to just fall off of my hands like walking and breathing, decades ago. And because I don't play them that often now or at all sometimes, it goes from your brain and you get really angry and frustrated because you're like, man, I spent ages learning this and I had it down to like a professional gigging standard and now it's just gone. Then if I start to get into that spiral of things, I really get wound up. And then if I just relax and just sit on the sofa and just have the guitar in my hand and just almost like let my mind wander and let my fingers just recall the piece, it comes back. And I'm sitting there going, I have not even a clue consciously what I'm doing. It's all just latently there somewhere in the back of my brain and my fingers are remembering like subconsciously. It's a weird thing.
Isn't that interesting? Because I wonder if that is applicable to loads of other things in life. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure singers who struggle to remember lyrics, maybe if they let it come to them a little bit more, be a bit less kind of focused on it. I wonder if it just comes to them. Interesting. That's really interesting.
I found that a couple of times. So to answer your question, was it rewarding? And I surprised myself. I surprised myself again at how important it is to keep refreshing yourself on pieces, otherwise they will just go, and recording them becomes a frustrating exercise. But I also surprised myself that they are still there somewhere, but it's finding and trying to access them in a way that you don't get frustrated or think about it too much, because if you do, it's almost like you can't grasp it, you can't grab it. It's like a memory or trying to remember a dream where you just, the more you think about it, the more it eludes you, and the more it like when you look at a word too much and you deconstruct it and you go, this word just doesn't make any sense to me anymore, it's lost all meaning. It's kind of like that kind of sensation where if I try to grasp it and try to make sense of it, it's gone. It's gone. And my music theory isn't to a standard where I would go, okay, well, clearly it would be this next chord in this progression because of this key and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't, my brain doesn't work like that. It's literally all by ear and finger memory, and then it comes back and then it just flows again. And so interesting. Anyway, I think I've dwelled on that enough. And no, I haven't bought any new guitars this week, but I have bought a couple of pedals.
Tell me about them now.
So I bought a couple of pedals.
Okay.
One of them hasn't arrived yet, but I knew it wouldn't because it's on back order. But I had to buy this pedal, and I have never heard it, but the whole mythology around it just appealed to me so much that I had to get one. So I'll tell you about that one. And then the other one is here. Okay. It's sitting next to me, and I haven't heard it. I don't know what it sounds like, and I can't plug it in and play it because it's not for me. But I've had a quick peek in the box, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's just like staring at me, going, try me. And I'm like, I can't, you're not mine. So, So which one do you want to start with first? The one with the mythical story that I haven't heard about, but that I've purchased on a whim and is on back order, or the mystery box.
When you say it's on back order, you're not saying it's another one that's been on the Wish.com catalogue.
Back order from China.
A container ship at the moment going through the Indian Ocean.
May or may not turn up in 7 years' time, and then be nothing like what I ordered it. Or I'll just open the box and it'll be like some rubber bands and
like your famous clone on at the moment.
My famous clone is getting traction, mate. I tell you, people go, I've heard about this, and I go, yeah, you heard it here first. Right, so I'll start with the first one. So I read in a guitar magazine. It was like a tiny little article, and I've started getting back into guitar magazines. Well, I say that I've started subscribing to them again because there was a special offer on, so I ordered a few. I haven't read any of them. They're just like piled up in the corner of my room. I'll give them to you once I've eventually got around to reading them.
Cheers, dude.
There's a little snippet of an article in there about this pedal, right? UK made, handmade in the UK. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, cool, a little UK pedal builder. And it's called the 1991. And I was like, okay, great year for music. What's this all about? And basically, it's a pedal builder in the UK called Andy, who runs a company called Funny Little Boxes, which I think is a wicked name for a little BC pedal builder. And I don't know the full story, so I can't go into it in details, but effectively, the long and short of it is he was dead a little while back, a couple of years ago or something, by a friend who has a famous YouTube channel and is in a Pearl Jam tribute band. He was dared by his friend to make the perfect Pearl Jam clone pedal in a box that replicated the full range of guitar sounds from the album 10, which is one of Pearl Jam's seminal albums, right? Yeah. And on a budget for £99. That was the challenge set to him. Long story short, this guy, Andy, at Funny Little Boxes, set to work, did all the research into their rigs, what circuits would he need to look at, how to recreate their tone, what kind of other pedals are getting involved. In the end, he had to re-engineer the whole thing from scratch. It wasn't a clone of another pedal or anything like that, although there are influences from other different bits of rig that they use. And he's nailed it. By all accounts and purposes, he has nailed the Pearl Jam 10 sound of both guitarists, in Stone Gossard, Mike McCready, in one pedal, that is decorated with all of the kind of colouring and design nods that the album has got.
Yeah.
So you look at it and it looks like the album cover in kind of its design. And people are going nuts for it, so much so that this little boutique pedal company exploded, and he had a waiting list like for months trying to keep up with the back orders of people that wanted this pedal. Then I read about this article, went to order one, and found that the poor guy had been diagnosed with an illness, which he's thankfully recovering from now, and it sounds like he's on the mend. He's put all of this on his website. You know, he's given full disclosure to people as to why he's having to ask people to be patient while he keeps up with these orders. So obviously then that scarcity thing kicked in, and I was like, I want one of these even more. Like the Pearl Jam 10 album was one of the seminal albums of my youth. But more importantly, it's got that grungy rock sound that goes everything from the rhythm guitar playing through to the soaring lead solos, where I go, wow, if someone can get all of that in one pedal, I reckon that would be a killer live pedal to use in a kind of bluesy rock setting, because you've got such a spectrum of different tonal palettes. Anyway, the guitar reviewers have gone nuts for it. The waiting list is off the charts for it. I looked on eBay and people are selling them for like £300-400 because, you know, of the waiting list. Anyway, he sorted out his manufacturing. He's got back on in the game, and now the waiting list is only a month. So I'll get mine in October.
Amazing.
But yeah, I ordered one of those. I thought for £99, it's got to be worth a punt.
Is that it? £99?
That's it. £99.
That's great money for a boutique pedal, especially something like that, because that's not like a Tube Screamer clone. Or do you know what I mean? You'd expect if you're buying like a boutique pedal, you'd expect to pay, maybe if you're buying a boutique Tube Screamer or something like that, or a variation on something, which a lot of pedals are. You know, if you buy like if you're buying like the King of Tone or whatever it is from Analog Man, you've probably got a 2-year waiting list, and you're paying upwards of $400-500 for two Marshall Bluesbreaker clones that he's adjusted the design of. It's not even a custom design. It's like also with Way Huge. If you get like the Green Rhino, you're buying a Tube Screamer clone. A lot of these boutique guys are just doing variations, but it sounds like this is a custom design that nails a specific sound that people have been asking for, and it's £99. I mean, that's just a steal.
It's
an absolute steal. That's the cost of just that's a 10-20 quid more than a blues driver.
Well, there you go. And I love the fact it's UK made, and I love the fact that this guy did it on a dare. Because, a mate of his who is in a Pearl Jam tribute band and is a credible, musician and YouTuber in his own right. So he was able to critique it and help him, tell him if he got it or not. And he's got it. He's nailed it in this pedal. And it's exploded his business. And now he's got a whole range of other pedals that he's going to be releasing once he's got around to finalizing them. So it's exploded his business. So I love the fact of that. And because I love that album, and because in my head, just thinking about the tonal palette of the guitar that's on those albums, I reckon that'd be a killer pedal that I could use live in a whole bunch of different settings. And as you say, Matt, it's not just a clone of one pedal. Yes, I mean, they use Tube Screamers in their rigs and they use all kinds of other kind of pedals, but this is trying to replicate the signal chain. So what pedals they're using, plus what amp they're going into, so it's more than just a clone of a pedal. It's like a clone of those guys' guitar rigs as well as the pedals and amps they were using. So
that's quite a breakthrough approach, isn't it? Because I guess the sound you're hearing on that album is not just the guitar rig; it's the microphone, it's the preamps, it's the desk, it's the compressors, it's the mastering of the album. It's all that stuff layered in. Yeah. To be able to replicate all of that is quite a feat.
All of those songs for both guitarists' parts off an entire album. So you can literally go, right, I need the sound for the intro to Alive off that album.
Yeah.
Dial it in like that. Okay, I need the rhythm tone for Jeremy or whatever. For those that are familiar with the album, you'll know the tracks I'm talking about. I think I just love that concept. I think it's really cool. I mean, I don't play any Pearl Jam songs live, and I don't really play them when I'm practicing. But it's a seminal album, and I think I just want to gig the pedal and see what's
that's a must-have album, it's got. Isn't it?
Oh man,
isn't it? 10
isn't
Pearl Jam, amazing. Yeah. What an amazing album.
So there you go. And a little plug for Funny Little Boxes. I'm sure I won't explode your waiting list any further singly on my own, because the likes of Guitarist Magazine, etc., have got hold of it, and they're going to have a bigger impact factor than I will. That's how I heard about it. But nice to plug a UK pedal builder and wish him well on his health recovery and also his business.
Absolutely. Well, good, interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing how it sounds when you finally get it, mate.
Yeah, man, I'll lend it to you once I've had a play with it and see what you think of it.
Cool.
But, yeah. See if you can do it on your Helix. Your Helix can obviously do all of that.
Do you know what? Actually, I don't know how well the Helix takes pedals. I think it does. A lot of people use Helixes with pedals. But anyway, shall we get on with what we're talking about today?
Don't you want to see the second pedal?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about the second pedal.
Yeah, sorry, man. I know I've massively eaten into my time. Well, let's see if you recognise this first. So you can see my hands are reaching for a box. Right, I've got to open it delicately because this isn't mine, and I'm not even going to take it out of the box because
you don't want to damage it for
but I do want to show it to you. I'm very tempted, but. See if
goodness me, what is that? Okay, so Kieran is showing me what looks to be like an SLOD overdrive. Is that Steve Lukather pedal?
It is.
Amazing. Oh, wow, that is so cool. Now, so he's got that on his board now, hasn't it? And isn't that like it's like three of his favourite pedals in one kind of signature?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So that will be winging its way as a birthday present to a friend of the show, Mr. Damien Lodrick, for his big birthday this weekend. As we know, he's a bit of a Lukather fan.
He is a serious Lukather fan, isn't
he? He won't hear this episode until he's received his gift. But I'm dying to hear what it sounds like. And it just looks like the coolest pedal ever, man. It's like 3 different gain stages, all editable, and you can layer them in different ways and just have lots of Toto-esque fun on it. And Lukather's using this on his board now. He says it's an absolutely killer
his lead tone's always been just ridiculous. Lukather is the man.
There we go. We got him into an episode again. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't regret that at all. Absolutely not. Sorry to interrupt this conversation. However, if you've made it this far, you should definitely subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast app. Go and do that now, then come right back. Welcome back. Anyway, so
right.
What are we talking about this week, Kieran?
So I think we thought it's been a little while. We've gone a bit nerdy in the last few weeks with some gear stuff and some very heavy philosophical debates as well. So some heavy stuff there as well. But you guys out there listening to the podcast and Spotify users in particular have been going nuts for the episodes that we did around greatest guitar solos of all time.
Yeah.
One of our most popular episodes and downloaded, and greatest guitar intros of all time. Right?
Absolutely.
So we thought, hey, there's got to be something in this that we can do a little bit more. And it's always good fun for us to discuss the songs that we love and how we would create a list like that of our own based on our own tastes. So today's episode that we agreed last night is around the greatest guitar riffs of all time. Mm-hmm. So this is something different, right? This is the riff. This isn't the solo. This isn't necessarily, although it may be the intro. This is the riff.
Exactly. So I was thinking about this last night. I was kind of like, there's going to be an overlap. Like we've never had, one of the things that I've always been surprised about is you and I have never really had too many clashes in terms of, we've both selected the same things. Or we generally always kind of go, actually we've selected different things and it's ended up being, I kind of feel like this is the one where we might have more overlaps, but I've made quite a big list.
Have you? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but one of the things I did want to say is I was thinking about this last night and I thought, does this overlap with like intros? But I guess not, because not every song that we did on the intros was like a riff-based intro. Like one of the ones I think I chose was Reeling in the Years by Steely Dan. And that's not a riff intro. It's just a great guitar solo at the beginning. That's so this has really been interesting thinking about, the kind of the not just the iconic songs and the intros you can can think of, but I've been trying to think of some things which I thought, actually, that's a really, really great riff and a really great, idea that a song's been built around that, maybe people have forgotten about. But I'm looking forward to this one.
So you've got quite a long list, right? We said we'd come up with 10 each.
10, yeah. I've got 10 main ones.
Have you got any backups to that?
I have got backups. Yes, I have.
Because I want to see if I can. I want to see if I can introduce a rule without it completely messing up your system. Are you up for it? Let's
definitely.
See.
Definitely.
Well, let me tell you what the rule is, and it's a guideline, right? Because again, when you and I were chatting about this last night, very briefly, actually, we thought this would be a fun thing as a two-parter, right? So we could give our listeners a bit more bang for a buck, and also get them thinking about the next episode, and they can input into our social media about how to shape the next episode on this. So we're talking about the greatest guitar riffs, right? Of which there are thousands of songs we could choose from and thousands of riffs, right? So there's more content than we can, or more options than we can possibly whittle down. So let's split this into two parts. Let's have today as what I would say are the classic, riffs that represent historical, significance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost, I would say, if I had to draw a line, right, and this is maybe my stipulation, anything pre the millennium.
I agree. I agree. Yes.
Shall we say that's the cutoff?
I like that.
Right?
I really like that cutoff point. Yeah. In fact, I'm glad you said that, because I think
cool.
I think that really helps us to define things which are kind of like classic riffs or riffs from a time where it was still quite emergent to have this kind of music, and then stuff which is still great to listen to, but is maybe a future classic rather than something that is you'd put in the same list now. So stuff that's maybe been inspired by the originals.
That's inspired by, or even just genuinely new. And you've got it, Matt. You've got it. Because what I'd like us to do, and maybe with the input of our listening audience as well, in a couple of weeks' time, or even in a week's time, we'll record the second follow-up for this episode, which will be almost like the modern classics, the guitar riffs that are going to stand the test of time, that are in songs, let's say for the argument that we've already laid down, they're post-millennial. I mean, look, that's still like 20 years ago.
A quarter of a century of time.
Exactly. It's still more than some people's entire lifetime. I know, it just shows how old we are. But I think what we can do then, is we can really have a look at those kind of more contemporary riffs that have, exactly as you say, been inspired by something that came a long, long time ago. But also we can give recognition to some songs that are happening right now that we predict are going to be future classic riffs, like in decades to come, and give that kind of acknowledgement. Because I'm kind of excited about some of the riffs that I'm hearing, even in the last year or two, that I think, you know what, that might stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many that will stand the test of time.
That's the stipulation. So there we go. So that's the only thing I'd say. So today, anything pre-millennium is up for the list.
Yeah.
10 of your best, and we'll make a playlist for everyone to listen to in the car or wherever, and we'll have some fun with it.
There we go. And I will share the playlist link in the description of the podcast as well. So
amazing.
Go there now. Pause the podcast. Go there now. Get the link up. Get the playlist ready, and listen along as we tell you and talk about these excellent riffs. Shall we start? Shall we do one at a time?
Yeah. Why not? And I wonder how, as you say, how much we're gonna overlap on this.
Yeah.
But what? Go on. I was going to give some more context to how I've started my list, but let's get into one. Let's get into one. All right, then. Let's get into one. Let's get started.
All right, then. So for me, the first one at the top of my list is not necessarily the best riff ever, but I think it's probably the earliest one. I think for me, I think of this as like the original guitar riff, and it is I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones.
Nice. I can hear it now. As soon as you said it, I've got the riff.
Exactly. It's playing already in your head. But that is it's patient zero of guitar riffs. Maybe not. Maybe there's others early rock and roll, but still, for me, that is, the song is defined by that riff. You hear that and you just think that's the song. Everything else that happens in the song comes second to that riff. But there we go.
That's a great choice, mate. That's a great choice. That fits with my criteria. So again, sorry for the preamble, guys, but I'm over caffeinated and super excited about this topic, and that's a bad combination, man. It's a bad.
Honesty is admirable.
Thank you, buddy. You know me. I am nothing if not a blatant cheat. So what I did in tried and tested format, and we've spoken about this on the show, is I texted immediately once we decided this, my very dear group of Muso friends who we have on a chat group on WhatsApp, the music rum and meat gang, and said to them, guys, this is tomorrow's podcast episode, greatest riffs of all time. Any input greatly received. That's it. That's literally all I put out there.
Yeah.
My God, it went. I've lost count of the number of messages that happened within a 15 to 20 minute period, but it was a frenzy. It was like dropping a hot dog into a piranha pond. It just went off. It went crazy. It was fantastic.
I don't think you're cheating though, Kieran. I think you're just a very well practiced manager and delegator. Really. That's what it is. You just, it's not cheating. It's just allowing other people around you to do the work for you.
Well, I said to the guys, and people got really passionate about this, and there was so much amazing stuff coming.
Yeah.
And then at one point, somebody said, I bet Kieran regrets asking this question, right? Because it was like growing arms and legs all over the place. It was just like, I completed my assignment within about 3 minutes, but then it kept going for another 20 minutes. And actually I thought, you know what? I've almost made this more difficult for myself than I intended to. So all of the guys had fantastic things, but what it showed me is that this is such a personal thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then I decided, right, I need to stop now. And yes, I'll look at what the guys have sent in, but if I'm going to narrow it down to 10, these have to be 10 riffs that immediately like give me some sort of emotional connection, make the hairs on my arm stand up, and make me feel like something. Because you can Google, 100 greatest guitar riffs of all time, and it's all there, right? It's all there for you to kind of pick, right? And the obvious ones will obviously be at the top of that list. But I've excluded quite a lot of those because I thought they are great riffs, they're incredible, but this is my list, right? This is very personal to me, such that if this list was played at my funeral, I would be a happy man. I go, yeah, those riffs sum me up. That's my life. That's my life in riffs.
Oh, excellent.
So that's kind of this list. So it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but that's the whole point, right? These are my greatest riffs of all time. Yeah. And some of them feature on everyone else's list. Some of them might not, but they're personal to me, because otherwise, how on earth am I going to narrow down like the thousands of songs that everyone feels very passionate about?
Yeah.
So that's. So having said that, I'm going to start with like the one that features on the top of most people's lists, because it's also my favourite. It's Layla. It's Clapton.
Of course. Right. Amazing. Yeah. What a riff.
But that for me is memories of growing up in my house, living with my parents, my dad's love of Clapton, my gateway into Clapton, and, starting to listen to his playing, the tone of it, and just that riff, that motif that repeats, and you just think, wow, I want to play guitar. So that song is not unique to me or my childhood in any way, but I'm not picking that one just because it is one that features in all the lists. Genuinely, for me, that was my introduction to Clapton. I can remember hearing that in my formative years, my dad playing it, and he's stealing his CD and going and playing it up in my room, and then thinking, when I started playing guitar, I want to learn how to play that, because that's a cool riff, right? It
is a great riff. And what I love about the original Layla riff as well is the layers to it, because you can sit at home and play the Layla riff by yourself with the chords, the whole thing, one guitar. Yeah. But when you listen to the recording as well, it's, there's octaves going on, there's stuff being played in unison. There's the riffs kind of broken into parts, like the first part, it kind of rings out whilst the chords are happening just after it. And I just love the different layers that goes on. It's such a well-produced riff, because it must have been a single idea that Duane Allman and Eric Clapton had, but they managed to turn it into something more complex through layering. And I think it's such not just a genius riff, but actually a really well-produced recording of a great riff as well.
Great tone.
Good
and
choice.
as you say, that I love that kind of octave shift that happens.
Yeah.
It's a tried and tested, like Rick Beato would have a formula for it as to why it musically works, and then he'd give you 700 examples like that. But for me, it's just like, I do that when I'm trying to work out a guitar part for a pub gig. It's just like, well, I'll play it here and then I'll just raise it up by an octave and just add some. It's just like, it's just foolproof.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. That's a great choice, man. So that's number one each of us. I think I'm going to go with my next one, which is it's a Cream song, but it's not the Cream song that I think a lot of people would think. For me, my favourite Cream riff is Badge. You know, the one that they wrote with George Harrison. And actually, maybe I should mention, there's two great riffs in Badge. There's the opening riff, which is a really great introduction. And then there's the middle section, that kind of, D major riff that's going on, which is just absolutely superb. Actually, one of the best guitar solos ever in that song. But Badge by Cream, a superb riff.
Great choice, man. Great choice. Have you got any other Cream ones on your list?
No,
neither have I. So I reckon, like Sunshine of Your Love came up quite a lot from the group, and I know features on a number of lists, and indeed it featured on our greatest guitar intros list. And that's not the reason it featured on that list is not the reason that it didn't feature on my list today. But actually, without referencing our previous lists and just creating this list for myself, there are no duplicates on my list today that appeared on our other playlist, which is quite interesting. So for me, Sunshine of Your Love, it is a classic riff. It is incredible, but I also think it's warranted as one of the greatest guitar intros of all time.
I agree. And actually, I've tried to, like you said earlier on, I've tried to kind of avoid the obvious to make this more interesting for people, because the obvious ones aren't always necessarily the best ones. And
exactly,
I think also, like you said, there's a lot of things in this list that are personal to me in terms of riffs that I love, and not just ones that I think are, the most known or the best. So I've tried to avoid the obvious ones in the hope of illuminating some less obvious ones, which are still classic riffs for people to go and listen to.
Perfect. And then we've got a playlist that's different, right? Because if you put into Spotify greatest guitar riffs, you'll have 20 playlists appear, but literally they're all the same.
Absolutely.
And you can predict what are on there. And that's great because they are brilliant riffs, but I like the way that we're making these personal to us so that people can get access to maybe some different songs and go, yeah, that is a great.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next. Let's go next. Whose goes it?
It's your turn. Number 2 for you.
Right. Okay. This one for me, when anybody says to me the greatest riff of all time, I mean, it kind of symbolizes my age and where my formative years were, and kind of is a bookmark for me. So there's so many people that will just disagree and go, how can you say that this is one of the top riffs that comes to your mind? But it just is, because this was my childhood, and this is for me like when I discovered what a great riff was, not just a great song or a great guitar solo, when I kind of went, okay, I get this riff concept, which is this guitar snippet, this repeating motif that drives the whole song, and just kind of
Oh,
without it, this song would be nothing. Yeah. And so for me, Enter Sandman is just, for me, tonally and just like, it's just that memorable riff that just changed my guitar playing forever, I think.
It's a perfect riff. And not only is it a perfect riff, but it builds beautifully, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From that clean part of the intro, and then they've developed it, the same riff into that distorted part. And man, I mean, that is, well, James Hetfield might be one of the greatest riff writers of all time, you know.
Well, that was Kirk Hammett and Hetfield, because when you know, well, I mean, but this is the beauty of it, right? Is that when you look back and you see how that riff was written, like, because it was all documented as part of the making of that album, and there's a scene where like Kirk Hammett is jamming like at 2 a.m. in a hotel room with like a little practice amp and a little Fender Squier Strat or something. And he used to record all of those little jam sessions, and he just played just like nonsense almost, just stuff coming out, and he'd play it to the guys like, you know, the next day. And that's how that riff was born. And it wasn't like that. That was the riff then got chopped and changed and repeated elements of it between him and Hetfield kind of working it through. But it was almost like him playing an excerpt of his like late night, early morning ramblings on a guitar, just jamming it, that someone stopped and went, oh, what was that bit? Rewind that bit? Okay, what if we chopped it there and then repeated that bit and then repeated the whole thing a couple of times? What would that sound like? And they kind of deconstructed it and wrote it. So it was almost like an idea for a riff born out of a kind of, random collection of stuff that then somebody kind of tuned into and went, hold on a minute, we can develop that further. There's something cool there. And yeah, that's the beauty of that. Also taught me about how riffs can get written and constructed and changed. And I remember taking that same approach when I was in an originals band at the time, because I was like 17, 18 when that came out. And that's how we used to approach our kind of riff writing. I used to go, here's a bunch of ideas. How can we evolve these into the next Enter Sandman or whatever? Anyway, there you go.
Amazing. Great choice, dude. Right, the next one for me, super simple riff. And this is from one of the most underrated bands, I think, to come out of like the British blues scene back in the 60s. And one of the most criminally underrated guitarists. I mean, a brilliant guitarist, but we don't talk about him enough these days. And that's Wishing Well by Free.
Oh,
really, really great riff. And obviously Paul Kossoff was a monster guitar player. Absolutely superb. Died very young, very tragically. But Free, with Paul Rodgers, it's incredible vocalist. So many of their songs are really great riffs. But for me, I picked out Wishing Well because it's just a classic, really great song.
Oh, such a good riff. I'd forgotten about Wishing Well.
So simple as well. Just pentatonic stuff.
I know.
It's so simple.
How many jam nights have we played Wishing Well at over the years? My God,
we used to play it in Roadrunner, didn't we? And it was.
Did we?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of us did.
God knows what I was doing. I didn't know we gigged that one. God, see, I'm getting old, man.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So there we go. Wishing Well, Free.
Cool, classic. Man. Great choice. Choice. You got any other Free numbers on your list?
Nope.
See, All Right Now appears all the time in the list.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, for me, All Right Now is a classic riff, absolutely. But it's not Free. I don't think it's Free's best riff. I think Wishing Well is a better riff than All Right Now, but maybe All Right Now is a better song than Wishing Well. And so, that's how I feel about it. But anyway, next.
Nice.
Number what's it for you? Number 3
This is number 3 for me. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. I need to. Okay. So this is one that literally makes something inside of me just kind of catch fire, and in a good way, not like thrush or anything, just like actual like emotional adrenaline. Right. Sorry, you just nearly fallen off your chair. But and you mentioned this as well with like Badge, but there's like a few riffs in this song and every one is better than the last one, and it just builds to this point where I feel exhausted by the end of this song, and that is Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the song was lost for a while, and then it had a resurgence, particularly in the UK and with social media, and then somebody decided to remix or re-release it at some point a few years ago, and didn't it make Christmas number 1 in the UK or something?
Right, in protest to X Factor or something.
Oh, was that X Factor?
Yes, and on social media arranged it, made some group saying, let's all download Rage Against the Machine in protest to make sure X Factor doesn't get some money, when it worked.
Which is great, which is cool, because it then introduced the riff to a whole new, and the song to a whole new audience. But for those of us that are aged like me, who remembers when it first came out and heard it the first time around, and remember hearing it for the first time with your mates at college and going, what is that? And the song is full of wonderful, angsty, like kind of rebelling against the system kind of, tonality. But the riff, the 3 riffs in that song are just, every time that comes on still, and heaven forbid if I'm behind the wheel of a car and that song comes on, man. foot is going to the floor and I'm going to drive like a nutcase.
It is a little bit like that, isn't it?
It's just
adrenaline-inducing for sure.
Pure adrenaline. Wicked song. Amazing.
Fantastic. Good choice, man. So next one for me, and this is another, this is kind of an adrenaline-inducing riff, but again, this is another one I think is little known by a lot of people, and but it means something to me because when I was playing guitar in the first few years, one of the bands that I really loved listening to for great guitar was Thin Lizzy, one of my favourite albums, and actually I think guitar intros wise, I think I mentioned some Thin Lizzy when we did, but not this song, but one of my favourite one of my favourite riffs of all time is Don't Believe a Word by Thin Lizzy, which is just super simple, but it's just this really rocking shuffle that's going on, and it's just super simple riff at the beginning, which they harmonise as Thin Lizzy always do. You know, the second part of the riff, the guitarist is playing a harmony of that riff, and it's just such a great song. Don't Believe a Word, Thin Lizzy.
I don't know that. So there you go. I'm going to have to go away and listen to that.
I think it's one of the less, obviously everyone knows Boys Are Back in Town, and Still in Love With You and things like that, but Don't Believe a Word is a fantastic track, and I'll put the live version from Live and Dangerous on because it's so much great guitar playing in that song. The solo's monstrous as well.
Nice.
There we go. That's my fourth choice.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Okay, a great choice and one for me to go and listen to. Right, so number 4 for me is again a song from my youth that literally stopped and arrested me in my tracks when I first heard it, and continues to do that because of the preamble and build up of the song, and then this almost like earth-shattering like juxtaposition as this riff and this tone comes in. And that is One Vision by Queen, which literally like just gives me that kind of electric feeling when I hear it. And it was a gateway song for me into Queen and Brian May. And I think it featured in the Highlander film. Maybe I was watching Highlander when I was a kid.
Maybe, I don't know. I think you're possibly right.
Maybe it was in Iron Eagle. I don't know. I think it's just one of those songs that's been used in so many 80s films to evoke a sense of like excitement. Right. But yeah, man. Great
fantastic choice. Superb choice.
Great riff, and got me into Queen. So there you go. More than Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody was just always there in the periphery, and it was a great song, right? But I saw it as a pop song. This got me into Queen as a rock band.
Fantastic choice, man. Yeah, great track. I love that track. Moving on, for me, my next choice is this is an absolute classic riff, one of my favourites to play if I ever gig it, and it's Message in a Bottle by the Police.
I love it, man. That almost made my list. It almost made my list. I came so close. I hate that riff. I can't play it properly. I mean, I can play it if I focus on it, but it's so tough. There's a stretch in there, which is just like, it's all going really well, and then you just got to stretch an unfeasible amount, and I'm just like, damn it.
It moves around quite quickly as well.
Yeah, but, it's great.
And Andy Summers was a fantastic, still is, fantastic guitarist. And, but yeah, Message in a Bottle by the Police. You all know it. That's probably, one of only a few obvious ones on my list.
You say it's obvious, but it's a sleeper one. It's one of those ones where you go, oh yeah, I've forgotten.
Well, it moves quite quickly into the verse, doesn't it, when you listen to the song? Yes. And there's other great stuff going on, like the drumming in any Police song is always ridiculous because Stuart Copeland was a very unique drummer. He didn't always just like doing a backbeat, but yeah, that's up there with the best of them for me. Message in a Bottle. Go have a listen.
Dude. Okay, right now we're getting into real cheesy territory. So, I can't believe this is on my list. But again, this is my list, and it's an emotional thing, and it's personal to me, and it reminds me of childhood. I must have been in a really reflective childhood, nostalgic mood when I made this list. But it's Survivor's Eye of the Tiger.
Man, that's a classic. That almost made my list as well.
Did it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an absolute classic. I mean, it's just iconic sound and iconic. It really is. I mean, that is kind of like there's like you said about, the feeling a boost when you listen to some riffs and things like that. That is one of them. For sure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're about to go down the gym or something like that, that'll get you in the Rocky Balboa mood, won't it?
I know it's cliche, but I listened to it last night to go, right, does it still have the same effect? I'm listening to all of these songs that I'm telling you about on my headphones at night just before I'm falling asleep going, have I got the list right? And I said to myself, right, it's got to pass the test, right? Do all of these evoke a certain kind of like something? And I thought, does this one still? Really? Still? Press play. Yes, it does. It's just... Yeah. Anyway.
Superb choice, man. Right, next one for me. This is not an obvious one either. I'd be surprised if I'm sure a few people know this one, but I imagine most people don't. I've put this one in my list for my dad, right? Because I reckon my dad's at home listening to this podcast. He listens to the podcast. Hi, Dad. He's listening. I bet he's screaming out for this one. And I could be wrong.
That's cool. That's cool.
And it's Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group, which is. Have you ever heard of the Edgar Winter? Edgar Winter was he's an amazing saxophonist. He's played on loads of stuff for people, but he's also a great musician all around. He was Johnny Winter's brother, so Johnny Winter, the blues guitarist. So Edgar Winter's his brother, and he was a bit more of a rock prog kind of guy. Yeah. But Frankenstein, the Edgar Winter Group, and I think it's from the album They Only Come Out at Night, which is actually full of great riffs and great classic rock songs like 70s. Really 70s vibe, but Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. Go and listen to it. Such a great track.
Going to, mate, so and good. I love the fact that you've given one there to your dad. Fair play, man. So that's really cool, man. That's great. That's good.
Because he had that album on vinyl. So it was one of like, if I was ever at home going through my dad's vinyl collection, I think that was one of the ones I'd see. And it's you can't miss it because Edgar Winter's on the front of the album himself, looking like he's flying through the earth. And if you remember what Edgar Winter and Johnny Winter were like, they were albinos, right? So they had long white hair, completely white skin, and it was just very arresting looking album. You kind of go, I'm going to listen to this guy, and then Frankenstein comes on, and amazing.
I love that. I love the personal story behind it. That's the whole point of this.
Absolutely,
this is our greatest riffs of all time.
There we go.
Right.
Cool. What's next for you?
Next one is one that you've mentioned before that you were surprised didn't feature in, I think, my intros list. And, but for me, it features on this list because it is the riff, that repeating motif that anchors the entire song from start to finish. And again, evokes that guttural kind of response that makes me, in this instance, this song makes me want to get up and play guitar. And I often sound check with this riff because not a lot of people know it. So it makes people go, what's that? It features some nice single note, lower string kind of stuff, so I can test my tone with that. But I also can chuck in some of the like little comping accents into it, so I can test out the full range of the guitar and get some chords in there in the riff as well. So it's a great one for me for sound checking because I can test out all elements of my tone, and that is Always on the Run by Lenny Kravitz, but obviously Slash on guitar. And I just love that riff. It is just such a well-constructed funk, rock, bluesy riff that I've just played for years as a sound check riff because I love the song and I love the response that I get from that riff where people always ask, either they know it and there's like that acknowledgement where they go, I haven't heard anyone play that for a long time. I didn't know that anyone else knew it. That's what they say. Or they go, what is that riff? And I go, man, it's this great track by Lenny Kravitz and Slash. You need to go and check it out. It's an awesome
absolute classic. And what I love about that riff as well is Slash's super gnarly Marshall tone as well. It's really kind of like bright without being, overly bright. It's just, such a really, just fantastic. I love the way he starts it with like the pick slide as well. The beginning of the song just comes sliding down before he starts. That's so rock. It's so rock and roll, isn't it?
It's so rock and roll. It's one of my all time.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Good choice, man. Right, next one for me. I think this is number 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 7 for me, so we're getting into the last 3 or 4 now. Right, so whoever said the Beatles couldn't write riffs? I think one of the greatest riffs of all time,
for sure,
is the Beatles and Paperback Writer.
Yes.
Amazing. Superb.
Really
It's a proper rock riff. Just a really great, simple riff. Great song. And I really, such a classic for me. It's really, everything that they did was always so good, obviously. But, anyone who says that they couldn't write riffs, you just need to go and listen to Paperback Writer.
For sure they could. There's so many. There's Day Tripper. I mean, there's just, there's so many great riffs that they do. And I think that is I'm so glad you picked a Beatles number because I wanted to, but I didn't have the personal story behind it because I've only got into Beatles in recent times. Yeah. But yeah, man, great choice. Great.
Absolutely, man. Number 7 for you. Go for it, dude.
Right. This is, again, slightly cliche territory, but for me, this is growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, when MTV was a thing and music videos were a thing. And, you didn't have on-demand television. So you would just sit and watch MTV and see what they were playing in the hopes that a song would come on that you really loved. And every time this song came on, the video was epic. The riff is just awesome. And it's got that tone and it's got that feel still to me to this day. And it just reminds me of growing up watching music television and just hoping and waiting for this song to come on. And that is Aerosmith's Walk This Way. It's
absolutely classic, man. That is amazing.
Just there. It's just got it. It's just, So yeah.
Brilliant choice, man. Right. Fantastic. Next one for me. So this is a Deep Purple riff.
Oh.
But it's not Smoke on the Water.
But it's not. Yes.
It's not Smoke on the Water. Smoke on the Water is an absolute classic riff, obviously. But too obvious for me. And for me, a better riff, I think, less, not as known as that, is Black Knight. Really, really great song. Classic 70s rock song, as everything Deep Purple did was. But Black Knight, fantastic riff.
I love that track.
Yeah,
I love the fact you've gone for that rather than Smoke on the Water, which again features on so many people's greatest riffs, and it is great. But Black Knight is arguably better. Say that? I don't know. We're saying it. We're saying it. We're saying it.
All right. Yeah. We're saying it. We're saying it.
We're saying it.
Right, next.
Right. Okay, I got 3 more.
Cool.
Here we go. So, this one, I don't know if you'll know this one. Maybe you will. I really struggled to narrow down a riff from this band because the guitarist was just visceral and talented beyond belief. Again, like Paul Kossoff, you mentioned earlier, died far too early before he peaked, I would say. And the band is Pantera, like super heavy, like rock metal band.
Dimebag
Darrell, just like a legend, man. Like the riffs that came from that guy on tracks like Cowboys from Hell, tracks like I'm Broken, just honestly, again, seminal riffs for me growing up that just made me go, how is he playing that? How is he getting that tone? How did he write that riff? It's just ridiculous. But the riff that I've chosen is from the song Walk, which is just a heavy ass guitar riff that just punches its way into your ears. So Pantera's Walk, and it's just, again, that idea of a repeating motif through a song that just makes an impact. It's one of the first riffs I remember learning when I was trying to learn how to play riffs. Yeah,
I don't know that one, so I'm looking forward to having a listen to that. And
it's vicious.
Check it out. It's vicious.
It's vicious.
As everything should be from Pantera. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Exactly.
Brilliant. Right, next one for me. So this is number 8, I think, for me.
It is.
This is one of my. So you spoke earlier on about the Lenny Kravitz and Slash one as being like a riff for you that you play quite regularly when you're sound checking and stuff like that. This is one for me that I like playing when I'm trying to get a particular crunch sound, something in between. So this is, for me, I get a really good. If I can play this and it feels good, I really like the clarity of a crunchy sound. It's not oversaturated. It's bright enough. And that's Rebel Rebel by David Bowie.
That's great.
Yeah, so super simple riff. It's kind of like, it's just some open strings, just around D and E. Really simple, but there's it's a bit chordal and the single line stuff going on. I just love that kind of simplicity, but it still sounds really cool.
It's that tone, isn't it? It's that tone. It is exactly that tone, isn't it? Yeah. That kind of broken up, clean, on the verge of breakup kind of, can it sustain the clean notes well? Can it still sound like a chord when you strike? that's exactly it.
Really great riff. I love that song as well. Just a classic.
Tune, man.
Yeah,
great
man.
Tune.
So there we go. That's I'm just double checking how many I've done. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's 9. I've done that. Yeah,
that's
9, which I thought, so there's one more for me.
So, okay, number, what is this for me? This is 9 for me. It's a weird one, because a lot of our stuff has been rock based so far, but this, I think counts. I think it counts as a riff. I hope it does, because I still haven't mastered it, and I still need to, and I've got my own approximation of it, but every time I listen to it, I'm like, I must sit down and properly nail that. And that is a track called Scuttle Button by Stevie Ray Vaughan. And in terms of like, just listen to that, and you have to stop everything else you're doing, because your brain can't multitask whilst listening to that song. It's impossible. No. Right? It's not a song you can put on in the background and try and do something else too, because especially if you're a guitarist, because you will just stop and listen to it and go, it sounds really simple, but it's so blisteringly fast that how can I play it? And so you play it and you get there and you almost get there, and then you lose it, and then your hand goes into cramp, and then you think, I'll try it again later. And you invariably just never get it if you're anything like me, but you keep trying because it's blazing.
Yeah, that is absolutely blazing. I mean, I'm just thinking now, like Stevie Ray Vaughan playing that, and just thinking, only he could come up with something like that.
That's it.
He's a particular kind of guitarist, and somebody with a certain level of not just skill, but like audacity to play something like that in a blues. It's ridiculous. It's like finger twisting. You know, it's so fast. Yeah. It's such a fast thing to be going, and it's hard to kind of get exactly right. I've never really tried to play it, because it's one of those I listen to and just think, forget it, man.
You can do it, but it's one where you just have to put in the hours, build it up slowly, and keep notching it up in tempo. What he's playing isn't particularly difficult if you played it at half that speed. Yeah. It's playing it up to speed and keeping it articulate and clear, and not turning it into a mess.
Absolutely.
There you go. Good technique song, but an awesome riff.
Technique song.
Awesome riff. Cool, right. Down to our last ones.
Down to the last one. So the last one for me, and I love this riff, and I've got to say, this is probably the riff I play the most if I sit down to. So like Rebel was something like particular. I love playing that. It's a great riff, and I like how it feels to play when you've got like a nice crunchy sound. But if I'm then happy with the crunch sound that I have, and I want to dig in and play something, this is what I play. I just love playing this so much, and It's Only Love by Bryan Adams. The song he did with Tina Turner.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's just so good. It's such a good riff. Just super simple. It's just like D, C, A, B flat, and then it goes to the F. F is the 1. And it's just it's just that. It's just so simple. But I just love that riff so much.
I haven't heard that in ages. That is the track I'm going to go and listen to straight after we finish today, because I'd forgotten that one. But that's another sleeper for me, where you just go,
such a great riff. Such a great riff.
Oh, what a wicked one to finish on.
There's my 10.
Nice. Right, number 10 for me, it is probably a cliche, probably features on most people's lists, but for me, this was what I mentioned a few that made me kind of get into the art of the riff and playing guitar, and made me kind of think about what a riff is and how can I play it. This one got me into music. And then it's only in latter years where you go, the reason you got into this is because it's got a killer riff. But I didn't know it was a riff at the time. I didn't know what it was. I was just like, what is this? And this is the song that got me really into music when I was like 5 or 6 or something.
Really?
And it's Michael Jackson's Beat It.
Oh,
the riff on that.
Yeah,
man.
That is a great riff. Yeah.
That just hooked me into the whole album. And then Thriller and all the other tracks off it, Billie Jean, etc. The hits just keep coming. But it was that track that just got me into music and got me passionate about music. And when I think back as to why, it's that riff. Yeah. It's that riff that did it.
Wow. Yeah. And do you know what, actually? One of the things I always loved about Michael Jackson's music was, I think for a lot of albums, certainly starting with Thriller, with Beat It, is he always had like the guitarist of the day come and do a song with him. Like when he did the Bad album, it was Steve Stevens and Dirty Diana, which is another great riff. And then when he did Dangerous, it was Slash, wasn't it? You got Slash in, and they did Give In To Me, which is another amazing
that is one of of my favourite guitar solos of all time. Did that feature on my? Was that on my? I hope that was on my greatest guitar solos of all time.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was.
I
must add that to the playlist. Yeah,
that was one of the greatest
guitar solos of all time.
Ever. Yeah.
Right. Well, then we've done it. We've done it, dude. We've got to leave it there. Because I'm going to shoot. But
I know you do. I know.
So next time we come back, maybe not the next time, but the time after, we're going to do the modern riffs. The
modern classics, the modern future classics. That's it. And we'll put it out to the wider group that we've got on social media, the Guitar Geek Hangout, and feed into it. What are the riffs post-millennium, but also just like happening right now that you go, this riff is going to stand the test of time, and I'm going to be listening to this riff when I'm in my 80s, and my kids are going to be going, this is amazing, this guitar song from back when you were younger, Dad. There you go.
There we go. Brilliant, dude. Right, have a cracking weekend, a cracking week.
And you.
All the best. Demo, happy birthday for the weekend as well.
Hey.
Have a good one. Enjoy your new gift. And I'll see you on the flip side, mate.
Mate, see you soon. Pleasure as always.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Great conversation again. If you like what you hear, then remember there are 62 other episodes going back almost 2 years that you can check out. Go and enjoy them. Anyway, best wishes. See you next time on the Guitar Smarts podcast.